So I wanted to go on record of what my official views on the Force were before The Last Jedi came out. And I don't think that my opinion is really going to change at all, or that The Last Jedi will really change the majority of opinions of people who have a definitive view on the Force. I think that it might open up people's minds, but I don't think it's going to fundamentally change most people's idea of what the Force means. But before the conversation started, I just wanted my personal opinions to be known. And I think it comes down to most people will use the word the Force to describe that energy of the universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it. Some might want to call it the Holy Spirit, some might want to call it the Tao, some might want to call it Brahma. I think it's all just different names for the same thing. And with regards to light side versus dark side, I actually have to agree more with the Jedi view, at least what's laid out in the Jedi path. Even though I spent most of my life dedicated towards the dark side and those darker ideals. In that, the Force is a mountain coming out of water, and the dark side is that submerged underlayer. And I think that's true, kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are those lower survivalist levels before you get to those higher spiritual and philosophical levels. And I think it's true with the Force. I think that the dark side, again, those darker emotions, fear, anger, aggression, hatred, those are there to keep you alive. Those are survivalist emotions. And I think that for as powerful as they are and as useful as they are, I think for those survivalist needs, they're very useful. But I think for living in a society where there are laws and there are other people, the dark side just isn't practical because you can't go around full of anger, fear, and hatred. It just isn't practical because then you start seeing enemies everywhere and there's always someone better. So in the end, it becomes self-defeating. Thus, I do think the Jedi, or at least the traditional Jedi philosophy, has a point in that we need to try to focus on being more community-oriented, being more philosophical, and being more abstract, being less concerned with how can we use the Force, but more how can we serve the Force? How can we serve the greater good, the greater thing that we're a part of? I definitely agree with that. Um, I think that the Jedi versus the Sith is really just a matter of culture. I think that people are afraid of the phrase "the Jedi must end" because they're afraid of their conceptualization of what the Jedi are. Just as a lot of people had issues with midichlorians, not because of what they represent, but because it was changing what they saw as the Force. Suddenly, if there's midichlorians, that doesn't fit with my view of the Force, thus that's wrong. No, the midichlorian thing was just to explain why we don't have Force powers when we interact with things, when we feel that, feel the Force. We feel it, but we can't shoot Force lightning, or we can't use mind tricks. The midichlorians are responsible for Force powers, not for your general perception of the Force and interaction with the Force. That's what I believe. And I think that once most people get past their fandom angst, that's what most people, get to. And I think that where the Jedi must end is, again, to broaden people's minds, broaden people's expectations, perhaps not of what a Jedi is, but what a Jedi can do. The Jedi as a hard and fast organization must end, or as a closed-minded, dogmatic, narrow viewpoint, which Palpatine, I think, rightly criticized. I think that the path of the Jedi can become narrow, can become dogmatic, but so can any view. And I think that it's up to the person to keep it from being dogmatic, to keep it in perspective and keep it personal. That's my personal opinion. But again, for all those faults in the Jedi, I think probably have the closer way. I was in a martial arts class, an internal martial arts class, that the teacher said you don't need to work on the dark, you don't need to focus on the dark because the dark will be there. The aggression will always be there. And I think that's true. We need to work on those more altruistic aspects of ourselves. The aggression will come when needed. That's my opinion. And next, I'm going to put up some stuff on the 10 animal forms and explain my hiatus. Until then, may the force be with you.